ball given away. Bruno's in. Bruno scores! The goalkeeper gave it away.
So United are now officially the worst version of themselves in the Premier League era and have equaled the record for the most losses in a Premier League season, their own record, which was set last season. Yes, this is getting much worse before getting better, worse than anyone would have expected. And as if the current issues at United with the squad weren't enough, Ruben Amorim and Christopher Vivell now have a new problem that could dominate their summer plans, which were already complicated, a bit of a blurry image to begin with when it comes to United's finances. And lately, you've even seen some signs of improvement in United's general play. Defending still has some issues, a bit porous, but there are some improvements in the midfield and the attack. They're looking a little bit better. In fact, in transition, they're getting better and better, but getting out of their own end is still a massive issue. As you've seen recently, they give the ball away so often in their own half of the pitch, which invites pressure, and given they're kind of mistake prone at the back, both the defense and the goalkeeper, a lot of goals are conceded because of this. But if they clean that up, their lives will be easier and they will resemble an Amorim team more and more. Then Lyon happened. Now, Nemanja Matic didn't cause these problems with his quotes.
Onana, if you are one of the worst goalkeepers in Man United history, you take care what you are talking,
But he absolutely shined an incredibly bright, unavoidable spotlight on Onana, of which the United keeper seemingly melted under it. At this point, the United goalkeepers, doesn't matter if it's Onana or Bayindir, may as well be chucking the ball into their own goal. They're virtually doing so anyway, right? There were hopes that the Turkish goalkeeper's performance against Newcastle United would, at the minimum, be error-free. Forget about him being a prime Manuel Neuer when it comes to shot stopping. Just don't make some sort of silly mistake, dude. And then the fourth goal happened. Beautiful play, really. I mean, a chipped ball from Bayindir onto the head of Joelinton, who just diverted it into the path of Bruno Guimaraes. And there's the clean finish. And another goal from another mistake. Now, in previous videos on United, my view of things was that while Onana wasn't perfect in any way, he still had some top performances now and then, and the good was outweighing the bad, especially considering the other areas of the pitch. In essence, the need to refresh the goalkeeper position was low on United's priority list, but then matches like Brighton happen. Matches like Lyon in the Europa League and others this season. And when the backup is producing similar mistakes later in the Premier League, I mean, who do you start against Lyon this week?
Incredible Onana, like a holding midfielder, footballs to Lukaku's and set the ball, run there.
It's a bit confusing as to what's happened, as Onana was quite good before joining United. In fact, he was actually integral to Inter's Champions League final run-in the one season he was with the Nerazzurri. Now, the increase of mistakes isn't easy to understand, but his overall play was better because he's playing in a better team under a coach whose vision was more fleshed out, had a better defense in front of him, etc. Prior to the final against Manchester City, he was actually statistically the best shot stopper in that entire Champions League campaign, as The Athletic noted, given he had stopped almost 8 additional goals from going in for Inter. His shot stopping at the time was fantastic. Not only that, but his distribution allowed Inzaghi to perfectly tailor Inter's ability to play from the back. Onana was a tactical boon. Onana played with the calmness of a midfielder.
Playing positions, holding midfielder.
Invited the press and pinged passes beautifully to circumvent the press once he had invited that pressure. Not only that, but he was praised for how he controlled the box, cross management, organizing the defense from set pieces, and again, his shot stopping. But with how United play now, one of the big benefits of Onana when he has the ball at his feet has kind of been scrubbed away. You feel as though he's playing for the wrong Manchester side. Though, of course, City already have Ederson, a guy who has 4 assists this season. 4! A record, of course.
Not a moment to forget for him again.
So you can't help but wonder how Onana has regressed. Perhaps that saying of when you join a circus, you become a clown applies here, as Onana isn't the first United signing to flourish elsewhere, but struggle with United. No, I'm not calling him a clown. That's just the saying. Sure, there were signs of riskiness in his play. There were some mistakes in his first season with United, but this season, when it comes to being erratic, he has leveled up. Or down, I guess, depending on how you want to look at it. At this point in the season, across all competitions, Onana has made 8 mistakes that have led to goals, more than any other Premier League keeper. Now, it must be said, Onana is going through a difficult moment in his personal life as his wife was robbed on March 29th and since then has had to hire 24-hour security to protect his family. I can only imagine how distracting that must be every time you leave your family, every time you leave for training or a match, the worry you would feel. Now, with that said, it's not as if his mistakes have all happened since the event of March 29th, right? The thing is, his shot stopping isn't awful still when you look at things statistically at least. Remember that stat from The Athletic prior to the UCL final in 2023? Well, this season, under that same metric, Onana has prevented 1.8 more goals than expected. Nothing to write home about at all, but not underperforming in that regard. But if your shot stopping can be undone by mistakes like these, with mistakes like these, who needs opponents? As the saying goes, the one that I just made up. But yeah, with mistakes like these, it makes it difficult to justify your inclusion in plans going forward. But Amorim may not have a choice, depending on where he prioritizes restructuring the United squad, which area is least bad.
Well, they're saying themselves it's extremely tight. I suspect it's not an immediate crisis.
So you may have seen reports of Amorim getting a £200 million war chest. First of all, why always a war chest, man? We gotta stop with the war chest stuff in journalism. It makes numbers on a sheet seem way cooler than they really are. Second of all, the further you read into the articles that are referencing this, the more that you see how these kinds of numbers are going to be possible for Amorim and how they're completely dependent on whether they make sales. It's a sales first, signing second kind of window that could be potentially on the horizon for United. By the way, some reports are coming from Goal, others from Simon Mullock, who is considered a tier 2 source, if I'm not mistaken, not exactly tier 1, but still higher ranking than some of the other dudes that just kind of throw whatever they can at the wall. So if the plan was for United to get better in the attack, then that could be fueled by the sales of Rashford. If Villa makes his loan a permanent one, a deal for somewhere between 30 to 40 million pounds will be coming to United. They'll have money coming in for Jadon Sancho, and they'll be hoping to cut some sort of deal with Real Betis or whomever else has been impressed by Antony's stint there. Antony will still likely be happy to stay in Spain as well, given how he has performed and how he's been treated by the Betis faithful. Could be some issues coming to an agreement regarding his contract, but it's not as big of a problem because while his transfer fee was super high to United, he's not even in the top 10 of United's earners when it comes to his salary. In fact, funnily enough, Antony is on a lower wage than Johnny Evans, according to Capology, who have most of the United salaries confirmed. So with Antony, there's about £9.3 million remaining on his contract over the next couple of years. Not the biggest issue for them. But given the fee they paid for him, they would need to sell him for a minimum of £32.5 million in order to not take a profit and sustainability loss, a PSR loss. Someone like Casemiro will be tougher to move on as this guy makes £18.2 million annually. This guy will not want to leave for anywhere that pays him less than that. What a misstep. Malacia could go. Alejandro Garnacho remains the biggest conundrum still as he is a saleable asset for United, but simultaneously one of their more talented players in the attack, but one of the more frustrating ones due to his end product being incredibly hit or miss. Still a player that has a lot of potential, but isn't really reaching it this season. So, the former plan to get the attack in a better place, as neither Xerxes nor Højlund have really grabbed hold of that center forward position, could be put on hold depending on what happens with United's sales. Plus, Onana would be a PSR issue as well, as David Ornstein highlighted, as he said that the only way the club can sanction his sale is if they receive a profit. Otherwise, his exit will be marked as a PSR loss, so that complicates things. Before all of this was going on, it looked like Amorim would be able to focus on the outfield positions to get players in that suit his style of play, rather than utilizing Ten Hag's chosen warriors, who've done little to impress anybody. So it's just another problem that Amorim and United just didn't need right now. According to Fabrizio Romano, Onana still carries a lot of interest from Saudi clubs who have been a get-out-of-jail-free card for clubs in the past that want to offload players.
Now I can say that the interest from Saudi Pro League is still there for Andre Onana.
And given the increased pay, perhaps Onana would consider moving to one of these clubs if an offer was on the table. You can't help but wonder if perhaps a keeper of Onana's abilities when it comes to playing with the ball at their feet is even necessary at United. Onana worked so well at Inter because the center backs could split. He would step forward into the back line almost, and they would work it out from the back as a unit, right? With Amorim, he builds from the back. Well, in prime Amorim ball, at Sporting. And the way he does it is through the center backs being ball-playing center backs and the central midfielder dropping to help them. Not so much a focus on the goalkeeper having to step in as an outfield player, essentially. So when it comes to what Manchester United need at the moment, maybe it's time to forget about a keeper's distribution, this sort of fad right now, and focus on a clean shot stopper. The rest is a bonus. Nothing fancy, nothing revolutionary at the back, just a clean shot stopper that can minimize goalkeeping errors and even help to undo defensive errors that will also continue to crop up until more personnel are changed and the team adapts fully to Amorim's style. Fortunately, they let one go in David De Gea. Not saying they shouldn't have done that, not trying to be a revisionist historian guy, but that is just a solid shot stopper in Serie A. I think he's second with 11 clean sheets in Serie A at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for Alisson, I dread to think what the score would have been.
And when I think of how impactful a goalkeeper change can be, how important a shot stopper change can be, my first thought almost always goes to Alisson at Liverpool and how he brought about the change for that club. He was essentially the tipping point for them. The attack was good, the midfield was good, the defense was good with Van Dijk arriving earlier, but the keeper position let them down at crucial moments, such as the 2018 Champions League final. Poor Karius, man. But hey, things are going well off of the pitch, and he's playing with Schalke now, so hey. But anyway, I'm not comparing where Liverpool was at with where this United team is currently at. United isn't winning the Champions League next season. They won't even be in Europe if they don't win Europa League. But what I am saying is that while a new keeper won't be the tipping point for United, it can absolutely give Amorim a better base. It can lead to more wins rather than draws thanks to mistakes and build more confidence in this side instead of being caught in a here we go again blender with no way out of it with their keepers. But we'll see, right? From the outside looking in, it's always crazy seeing what United are getting up to, how they lose matches, how they act in the market. It's always a wild ride. I can only imagine what it's like being a supporter of the club. Past the point of high blood pressure, I think. I assume it's just a feeling of being completely numb to everything. No feeling at all. All right, guys, thanks as always for watching, and I'll see you on Thursday for more Champions League coverage. We'll know the final four in that competition. Cool? See you later.